In a world that rewards appearance over substance, comfort over character, and noise over clarity, being mentally unbreakable is no longer optional. It's survival. Have you ever felt like life keeps punching and you don't know how to hold the line anymore? Like your discipline fades, your emotions control you, and no matter how much you chase, you never feel grounded? You're not alone. Most men today are overwhelmed not by external chaos, but by an internal storm they were never taught to master. But the Stoics knew. They believed that true strength isn't built in ease, it's forged in fire. That freedom doesn't come from controlling the world, but from mastering yourself. And in this video, you're going to learn 8 brutal laws that do exactly that. Rewire your mind and make you mentally unbreakable. These aren't quotes to admire. They're rules to live by. Whether you're battling self-doubt, emotional fatigue, or just tired of being thrown off course by things you can't control, this is your call to arms. You don't need more time, you need a stronger focus. You don't need to be liked, you need to be grounded. You don't need permission, you need a code. So if you're ready to build the kind of mental toughness that doesn't crack under pressure, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with the man who needs to hear it most. Maybe that man is you. Now let's begin. 1. Embrace discomfort to build strength. You don't become unbreakable by staying warm, safe, and well-fed. You become unbreakable when your skin itches from the cold, when your muscles scream under pressure, when your pride is stripped bare, and all that's left is raw, unfiltered will. The truth? Most men aren't broken. They've just been sheltered too long. We were raised in padded chairs, behind glowing screens, in a society that mistakes comfort for safety and calls softness progress. But in reality, every layer of comfort you cling to is one less layer of strength you'll have when life hits. The man who has never sat alone in silence can't face betrayal. The man who has never trained through exhaustion won't lead through chaos. The man who avoids pain becomes fragile, easy to break, easy to control. Discomfort, when chosen, becomes discipline. It rewires the mind. And that's what this law is all about. Not punishing yourself, not becoming a masochist, but recognizing discomfort as a training ground. A mental gym, a forge for inner steel. Think about it. Your greatest moments of growth didn't come when life was soft and easy. They came after loss, after failure, after rejection. The moment you hit the floor and something inside you refused to stay there, that's when the rewiring began. The Stoics didn't preach comfort. They practiced cold. Seneca would sleep on the floor, wear rough clothing, eat the simplest meals, not because he had to, but because he chose to. Why? Because when you train without luxury, you remain free from its control. Because when you've stared hunger in the face, you stop fearing emptiness. And when you voluntarily walk through the fire, no storm can catch you off guard. Modern men today have traded this wisdom for convenience. They spend more time searching for the perfect morning routine than sitting with the discomfort of their own weakness. They delay the hard conversations. They skip the gym on the days that matter most, the days they feel least like going. They run from the cold, from confrontation, from silence, from failure, and then wonder why nothing changes. Here's the shift. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you who you really are when the filters fall away. More importantly, it shows you who you can become if you stop running. When you lean into discomfort, the hard talk, the cold shower, the moment of stillness when you want to scroll away your emptiness, you don't just survive it, you sharpen your edge. You build a mind that's resilient, not in theory, but in reality. And that's what makes you dangerous in a world full of men who crumble when life doesn't go their way. The next time discomfort knocks, don't flinch. Don't look away. Invite it in. Sit with it. Let it stretch you. Let it strip you of illusion. Choose one discomfort today. Small, intentional. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to remind yourself you're not here to stay soft. You're here to build something inside that can't be taken away. Because the only way to become mentally unbreakable is to stop avoiding the things that make you stronger. 2. Master your emotions before they master you. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master, Epictetus. That quote isn't poetic, it's a slap to the ego. It means that every time you lash out, flinch, retreat, or spiral because of what someone else says or does, you've just handed them the keys to your peace. They didn't take it, you gave it away. Most men today live like that without even realizing it. They are calm until the email comes, strong until someone cuts them off, disciplined until their plans get disrupted. But if your mood is a leaf in the wind of circumstance, you're not free. You're owned. We live in an age where feelings are worshipped, where emotions get the final say. But the Stoics saw it differently. They didn't suppress emotions. They studied them. They trained for them. Because they knew that emotional control isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. You can feel anger without becoming it. You can experience fear without folding. That's not a weakness. That's strength under restraint. And it's rare. The modern mistake is confusing emotional honesty with emotional impulse. Telling yourself, I just need to vent, doesn't make you stronger. It makes you reactive. Stoics knew that the gap between stimulus and response is where power lives. They stepped back, even in chaos, and chose their next move with intention, not out of instinct. The man who reacts without thinking is predictable, easy to provoke, easy to manipulate. But the man who can pause, breathe, and respond with clarity becomes a different kind of force. The kind that unsettles people because he doesn't flinch. That's emotional self-control. That's what rewires the mind from breakable to grounded. Think of emotions like weather. You can't stop the storm from coming, but you can decide if you'll go out without a coat. You can train for it. You can build a home inside yourself that doesn't flood every time life throws rain. And that begins with awareness. Try this. The next time you feel the heat rising in your chest, anger, envy, irritation, don't act. Don't speak. Just wait. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this feeling useful right now, or is it hijacking my clarity? That small pause is where strength grows. You don't need to suppress your emotion. You need to slow it down enough to see it clearly. This isn't about being robotic. It's about being dangerous in the best way. Dangerous because you're not emotionally predictable. Because you're not rattled by noise. Because your power doesn't fluctuate with someone else's behavior. In a world where outrage is monetized and attention is stolen by reaction, your calm becomes your weapon. It earns respect without shouting. It walks into the storm without trembling. And it teaches others, without saying a word, that some men are built differently. Don't try to escape your emotions. Learn to master them. Then no one will ever own you again. Not your anger, not your fear, not the world. And when you walk through the fire with stillness, people won't just notice. They'll wonder what you're made of. 3. Abandon fairness. Choose power instead. You can do everything right and still lose. You can be loyal and still be betrayed. You can work harder than anyone in the room and still watch someone else get the reward. Fair? No. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud. Life doesn't care about fairness. And the more you expect it, the weaker you become. The more you cling to what should happen, the more unprepared you are for what will happen. From the moment we're boys, we're taught a lie in soft tones. Be good, and life will treat you well. But life isn't a balanced scale. It's a storm. And waiting for fairness in a storm is like arguing with lightning. The Stoics knew this. They didn't chase fairness, they chased resilience. They built inner strength, not because it guaranteed reward, but because it guaranteed survival. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire during war, famine, and betrayal. His writings don't complain. They calculate. He wrote, "You can commit injustice by doing nothing." In other words, standing still while waiting for fairness can be its own form of failure. Stoic power doesn't come from hoping the world will play nice. It comes from knowing it won't, and showing up anyway. Too many men today walk around wounded, not because they were hit, but because they expected not to be. They expected that being good meant being immune, that effort meant outcomes. That loyalty meant security, and when the world didn't cooperate, they collapsed. But the unbreakable man does something else. He doesn't ask, "Is this fair?" He asks, "What now?" He faces betrayal, loss, rejection, and doesn't flinch. Not because he's numb, but because he trained for this. Because his peace isn't dependent on life matching his expectations. It's rooted in how he responds when life doesn't. Here's where everything changes. When you let go of fairness, you stop waiting, you start building, you stop arguing with what is and start taking responsibility for what will be. That shift is brutal, yes, but it's also liberating. You're no longer a victim of circumstance. You're a strategist in the chaos. So what do you do instead? You build skills so sharp, the system can't ignore you. You act with honor even when dishonor wins. You stand up when it's easier to fold. And when you're overlooked, you double down on growth. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because you refuse to be broken by the game. The next time you whisper, "This isn't fair," stop yourself. Replace it with, "This is fuel." Let it burn. Let it sharpen. Let it remind you that power isn't given, it's built in silence, when no one claps and no one helps. You don't need the world to be fair. You need to be strong. Strong enough to outlast the storm, outthink the chaos, and outlive the lie that fairness was ever the goal. 4. Control what's yours. Release what's not. The man who tries to control everything ends up controlling nothing. He burns out chasing outcomes he can't predict, people he can't change, and futures he can't guarantee. It's like gripping sand in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. In a world that profits off your anxiety and steals your attention with every scroll, the ability to focus only on what you can control isn't just discipline, it's survival. You can't control the economy. You can control your skills. You can't control someone's opinion. You can control how you carry yourself. You can't control what happens tomorrow. You can control your effort today. That's the edge. That's where the unbreakable man separates from the crowd. While others spiral over news cycles and gossip, he builds. While others overreact to what they cannot change, he masters what's within his grasp. The Stoics called this the only true freedom, power over the self. Modern life tempts you to play God, to fix everyone, win every outcome, avoid every failure. But trying to be in control of everything is the fastest path to losing control of yourself. And when you lose that, you lose everything. Anger owns you. Doubt consumes you. Insecurity dictates your actions. And every day, you drift further from peace. Real power doesn't come from control over others. It comes from control over your reactions, your words, your energy, your focus. That's your kingdom. And everything outside that boundary, let it go. Not in defeat, but in strength. The man who knows what is his to own doesn't waste a single breath on what isn't. Picture a storm. The weak man shouts at the wind, curses the sky, and blames the world for getting wet. The strong man, he grabs the wheel. He adjusts the sail. He can't stop the storm, but he sure as hell knows how to ride through it. This mindset doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about the right things. You stop bleeding energy into things that never deserved your attention. And that shift, though subtle, is massive. You move from being tossed by life to steering through it. You go from being emotionally hijacked to strategically calm. Try this. The next time you feel overwhelmed, ask one question. Is this within my control? If yes, act with intention. If no, release it without guilt. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter more. And every ounce of your energy wasted on the uncontrollable is energy stolen from your growth. You want to be mentally unbreakable? Then stop chasing things that were never yours to hold. Master your space, master your mind. Build inside out, not outside in. Because the man who learns to command himself will always walk through chaos unshaken. That's not philosophy, that's a strategy for life. 5. Practice voluntary hardship. If comfort is your goal, strength will never be your identity. You can't have both, and deep down you know it. Every man who's crumbled when life hit too hard, too fast, too unexpectedly, he didn't lack talent. He lacked preparation. Because real life doesn't warn you, it ambushes you. And if you haven't trained for the hard will break you. Look around. Men today are growing weaker, not because life is harder, but because they've stopped doing hard things by choice. They've outsourced their resilience to convenience. If it's cold, they turn up the heat. If it's uncomfortable, they quit. If it takes time, they scroll past it. But mental toughness doesn't appear when you need it. It's built long before that, through voluntary hardship. The Stoics understood this. Seneca practiced fasting. He slept on the ground. He wore coarse clothes and ate the simplest food, not to suffer, but to remind himself he could. That he would not be broken if life stripped everything away. Because when you've chosen discomfort, you no longer fear it. You've been there already and lived. This is the law. Train with difficulty when you don't have to, so you're ready when you have no choice. Waiting for life to test you is a weakness. Building your own tests is a strength. If you only challenge yourself when it's convenient, you'll collapse the moment life becomes inconvenient. Voluntary hardship is not about pain for pain's sake. It's about conditioning your mind to act despite pain, to keep promises to yourself when no one's watching, to delay pleasure, control your reactions, and make decisions from principle, not impulse. This isn't about proving something, it's about forging something. Take a cold shower, not because it's trendy, but because your mind says no. Skip the unnecessary meal, not to punish your body, but to remind yourself that you commanded. Train early, not because it's fun, but because it strengthens the voice inside that says, I do what's necessary, not what's easy. That voice is your foundation, and without it, nothing else holds. Imagine a warrior who only sharpens his blade on the battlefield. He won't survive. The sharpening must come before the fight. Your mental edge is the same. You build it in private, in repetition, in discomfort. You choose when no one's watching. And when the real storm comes, illness, betrayal, collapse, you don't ask how to survive. You've already trained for it. This is the shift. Weak men avoid discomfort because it feels like suffering. Strong men embrace it because they know it's armor. And when that armor becomes part of you, routine, embedded, automatic, what once broke you now builds you. Start small, but start. Starve your impulses, face your resistance. Do hard things on purpose, because that's how unbreakable men are made. Not in comfort, not in theory, but in fire. Chosen, repeated, internalized, until it's no longer a test, just who you are. 6. Silence the inner critic. There's a voice inside your head that's been running the show for years, and most of the time, you don't even hear it. It's the one that says, you're not ready, you always mess this up, or why bother trying? It doesn't shout, it whispers, and it sounds just enough like your own thoughts that you mistake it for truth. But here's the reality. Your inner critic isn't your mind, it's your programming. And if you don't confront it, you'll live your entire life under its thumb, second-guessing every decision, sabotaging your own progress, and calling it humility. This voice doesn't care about your potential. It only cares about keeping you safe, by keeping you small. It was built by past failures, old rejections, careless words from people who didn't know better. And over time, it got louder, smarter, more convincing. But the Stoics never taught us to obey that voice. They taught us to interrogate it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Now, flip that inward. If you are paralyzed by your own doubt, it's not the situation holding you back, it's the meaning you assign to it. That's where your power begins. Not in avoiding the critic, but in challenging it. Most men wait for confidence before they take action. But the truth is, confidence isn't the cause, it's the effect. It comes after you act in defiance of the voice telling you to wait. That's how the unbreakable mindset is built. Not in silence, but by silencing what doesn't serve you. Picture a battlefield. On one side, you, with your goals, your discipline, your vision. On the other side, a constant stream of noise trying to convince you that you're not enough. You don't need to overpower it. You need to stop giving it the mic. You need to break the pattern. When the thought says, you're not good enough, respond, not emotionally, but with fact. I've shown up every day this week. When it says, you're wasting your time, answer with action. Keep going. This isn't about lying to yourself with fake positivity. It's about reclaiming authority over the inner dialogue that shapes your reality. And that starts with awareness. Watch your thoughts like a soldier watches the perimeter. Don't let anything slip through unchallenged. Build discipline around your self-talk. Sharpen it, train it. Replace default doubt with deliberate direction. So when you hear that voice tomorrow, because it will come back, don't panic, don't obey. Look it in the eye and walk straight through it. And if you fall, get back up without apology. Because the real strength isn't in never hearing the critic. It's in refusing to believe him. That's how unbreakable men think. Quiet on the outside, grounded on the inside, and louder in action than any voice could ever be. 7. Fall in love with the process, not the reward. The man who chases the trophy often drops the sword, because while his eyes are on applause, his discipline slips. His focus drifts, his core softens, and when the praise fades as it always does, he's left with nothing but confusion. That's the problem with results. They're unpredictable, they're often unfair, and they're never fully in your hands. But process? That's yours. Every rep, every word, every early morning and late night grind. That's the real reward. In today's culture, everything screams win or you're worthless. Followers, status, six-figure launches, approval from people who won't remember you in a month. But the Stoics would call this spiritual slavery, being bound to outcomes you can't control. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And nothing slips further out of your control than how the world reacts to your effort. Most men today work for validation. They like to be admired, they post to be seen, they build, hoping someone claps. But when the likes stall, the comments quiet, or the promotion goes to someone else, they collapse inward. Because their identity wasn't in the work, it was in the recognition. And that's dangerous. Now flip that. Imagine a man who writes, not to go viral, but to sharpen his thinking, who trains not for aesthetics, but for mastery, who builds not for praise, but because building is who he is. That man is unshakable. Because his value isn't assigned, it's chosen. His self-respect doesn't fluctuate with results, it's anchored in the repetition. He wins the moment he shows up with intention, no outcome required. Falling in love with the process is not settling, it's upgrading your mindset. It means shifting your reward system from public applause to private integrity, from being seen to being solid, from craving recognition to craving internal proof that you kept your word. Try this. Before you act, ask, if no one ever knew I did this, would I still do it? If the answer is yes, you're in the right place. That's alignment, that's clarity. That's what rewires your mind to become mentally unbreakable. Because nothing outside of you has the power to shake what's built from the inside out. When you love the process, rejection doesn't rattle you, delays don't derail you, because you didn't tie your worth to what happened next. You tied it to the fact that you showed up fully. That mindset is rare and powerful and deeply magnetic, because in a world of people chasing, you become the one who already is. So write the paragraph, make the call, do the rep, even if no one claps, especially if no one claps. Because the moment you stop chasing rewards and start respecting your rituals, something shifts. The work becomes the win, the process becomes the pride, and the man becomes unbreakable, not because of what he earns, but because of who he becomes in the doing. 8. Live by virtue, not for validation. Strip away the applause, remove the spotlight. Imagine your efforts, your character, your daily choices, existing in complete silence. Would you still show up the same way? That question separates the grounded from the performative. Because in a world built on optics, the man who builds on values becomes unshakable. Most men today don't live, they perform. Every word is curated, every post calculated, every move made with someone else's opinion in mind. And the moment approval is withheld, they shrink. Because when your identity depends on validation, your power belongs to whoever gives you permission to exist. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius said, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." That's not resignation, that's liberation. Living by virtue means you act from principle, not pressure. It means your compass is internal, not reactive. You don't lie because the truth is inconvenient. You don't take shortcuts because the path is long. You don't bend your values to fit the mood of the room. And that, in today's world, is radical. Because let's be honest, choosing virtue is harder. It won't make you viral. It won't win you popularity contests. You might be mocked for doing what's right. You'll definitely be overlooked. But you'll sleep like a king. You'll walk with quiet power. And when chaos hits, you won't scramble to remember who you are. You'll already know. This is where mental toughness finds its root. Not in how loud you speak, but in how clearly you live. The man who lives for virtue doesn't need to be praised. His reward is his integrity. And that kind of character can't be bought, borrowed, or faked. It's built. In private, in quiet decisions, in hard moments when no one's watching. Think of a building. One built on appearance may rise fast, but it crumbles in a storm. One built on bedrock, tested, measured, aligned, outlasts decades. Your life is no different. When you trade validation for virtue, you trade speed for stability. And in the long run, stability is what endures. So what does it look like in action? It's keeping your word when no one will know. It's staying silent when gossip tempts you. It's lifting others without broadcasting it. It's being the same man in the shadows as you are in the spotlight. That consistency? That's where confidence grows. Not fake bravado, but deep, unshakable self-respect. And when the world eventually disappoints you, as it will, you'll have something no praise can replace: trust in yourself. And that trust becomes your armor. It guides you when everything outside is spinning. It protects you from becoming someone you're not, just to be accepted by people who don't even know who they are. Let others chase applause. You chase alignment. Let others seek fame. You seek truth. Because when the world watches or not, your standard doesn't change. That's how unbreakable men are made, not by being seen, but by being solid. In a world that constantly pulls you toward distraction, comfort, and emotional chaos, choosing to live by these 8 brutal laws isn't just bold, it's necessary. These aren't just mindset tips, they're disciplines, daily practices that shape the foundation of a mentally unbreakable man. They rewire how you respond to pain, how you command your thoughts, and how you stand tall when the world wants you small. You've seen how embracing discomfort builds strength, how mastering your emotions grants you freedom, how letting go of fairness gives you power, and how focusing on what's truly within your control restores clarity. You've understood the value of voluntary hardship, the importance of silencing the inner critic, and the quiet pride that comes from falling in love with the process, not the praise. And finally, you've been reminded that true resilience is built on values, not validation. But knowledge without application is just another comfort zone. The transformation happens when you begin to live this. When you wake up and ask, not what the world owes you, but what kind of man you choose to become. These habits aren't for show, they're for life, for the quiet moments when no one is watching and your discipline is the only voice that answers. So take one law, start today, live it fully, and then add the next. Build slowly, but with intention. Because the man who trains his mind, sharpens his discipline, and leads with integrity, he becomes the kind of presence this world rarely sees. Calm, grounded, focused. If you've walked through any of these challenges or started applying them in your own life, share your story in the comments below. Your growth could be the spark for someone else's transformation. This is your work, your time, and you don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up every day, unshaken,